today. I'm your host, Perry Atkinson. Always delighted when we have a chance to have Dave Fennell in the office because he's an amazing guy.
Well, thanks, Perry. I appreciate that.
He's an amazing guy. How do I introduce you and how do I describe you? Well, let me introduce you for those who don't know. He's the Director of Advancement and Admissions at the Grace Cascade Christian Schools, which is really a remarkable education organization here in Southern Oregon, one of the best in the world, I think, right here in our own backyard. The history of this whole school thing is just amazing.
Yeah, 50 years this year. And kind of springtime, people are making decisions, kind of thinking about their educational options for next year. And really, we have our open house coming up May 6th, 7 to 9 o'clock. People could go to the website, gracechristian.org, or call the school number 541-772-0606. I had caffeine this morning. And then, Dana, our admissions coordinator, will take care of them. And, Perry, really the question I think parents need to ask is like, what makes these schools so different? In an era of charter schools, online schools, homeschooling, public schools, other private schools, the difference is Grace Cascade, at the core, the DNA, they are a Christian school. So the understanding by design curriculum permeates everything that we do. We do not hide it. We receive no federal funding. We are not confused who kids need to be. Our board, our head of schools, a very different model. And when you think about what our pastor talks about all the time, right? Imitation and immersion. Who do you want your kids imitating and what do you want them immersed into? I look at our son. He wears flannels. And you know why he wears flannels? Our pastor wears flannels, right? He's imitating,
yeah,
and he's immersed. And
right.
You look at what young people today are exposed to through the media, through Hollywood. They're immersing themselves, and then they're imitating. And we should not be surprised, right? The Bible tells us, right, be imitators of Christ, and that's what we're going to teach our kids. That's what we're going to walk them through. And I got one more thing for you before you fire your questions. And, and I hear this all the time in education, especially now. Well, we want flexibility. We want this. We want that. And, families get to choose what they think is right. But, Perry, what I am seeing is opportunities determine outcomes. And a story. Now, do not call Perry. Do not blast him. Our two younger boys played basketball this last year. Yeah. One played for one organization, and it was flexible. It was family friendly. One practice a week, one game on Saturday. Oh, and it was so nice. The older one played for another organization, and it had multiple 2-hour practices during the week. He played over 24 games in the season. Now, we did not miss church on Sundays. And I'm not even saying like hindsight, I'm like, and I'm not endorsing sports, right? I was an athletic director. I understand the pros and the cons. But at the end of the day, I'm watching my 5th grade son do things that I couldn't do until my senior year in high school. And I'm saying, guess what? Different opportunities, different outcomes. So for parents, it's like, hey, we want this, we want that. That's fine, but going to school 5 days a week, starting at 8 o'clock, going through 3 o'clock, where you're interacting with how many other people, real life human beings, you're not in front of a screen, you're not 1 hour with a teacher, you're going to have a different outcome.
Right.
And I'm teaching the entrepreneurship business class. And Perry, let me tell you, every Tuesday, Thursdays, I have the most incredible speakers coming in. What these students are getting, the field trips they are taking, they are being immersed, they are being sharpened. And you know what? You cannot duplicate that.
No, you can't.
And so that is, as parents think through the process, and one of the things in entrepreneurship, then I'll let you ask your questions. And only one cup of coffee, folks. But one of the things in entrepreneurship that we want students to get is grit, right? You have to have grit. Well, guess what? And I tell my son, guess what? You're going to show up and go to school. I'm tired. Guess what, son? The rest of the world is tired. Wasn't it Winston Churchill said, the majority of really important things that have ever been done in the world have been done by people who are very, very, very tired. Yeah. So different opportunities, different outcomes, immersion, imitation. Those are things when you think about holistic education, right? It's not just about book smarts, learning, academics. And on your earlier segment, what we're launching now with our new high school principal, this guy's, you think I'm high energy. We're launching a whole new VOTEC opportunity for kids. So you're looking at small engine, you're looking at an expansion on construction, you're looking at drone opportunities. I mean, Perry, I'm looking at this, and then you're looking at careers where kids can step right out of high school into opportunities that pay them a lot of money. And another thing, I take my students to different businesses and companies, and one lady who's hired a lot of our students, and they're doing really well, she says, Dave, I just need to tell you something. Your students are different. than the other students.
Right.
And the reason why they're different is we can hold them accountable, we have expectations. They are imitating and immersed in a culture that is intentional to disciple them a certain way. Are we perfect?
No.
Nobody but you is. So
yeah.
ask questions. I need to take another coffee break.
No. You did everything in a nutshell. The bottom line is here, folks, if you are beginning to process your child's education, really from preschool up through high school, take a look at this. And the open house is coming up. That's what it's all about. You can literally, physically go there, get the tour, see what's going on. I know you have scholarship programs, you have all that, but to get immersed into this environment is the bottom line. Yeah,
you know, we have an amazing needs-based financial aid program. I mean, we want this school to be accessible for those families who want what these schools have to offer. And, you know, the open house pair, I mean, that will feed you dinner, not you and Peggy, but hey, come on, I'll pay for your dinner. But, you know, you go on the website, I mean, they will feed you dinner. Families are going to get to meet the principals, talk with the principals, hear their heart. The principals are going to hear the family's heart. Our students are going to be there, so there's going to be tables set up with the different sports, the different clubs. I'm going to have a table for business entrepreneurship, and really people will get to see this is who these schools are. And then finally, you know, if you fill out an inquiry form, and I'm paid to say this by the admissions department, or you bring like a guest family, they're going to have like prizes you can win. I can't win the prizes, even though I'm going to bring my son who will be new to the school, but hey, you know, I mean, new to the middle school.
Okay, so again, you have 2 campuses, and tell us where the dividing line is. 7th grade?
Dividing line is 5th grade. So our Grace campus is 3-year-old through 5th, and then middle school 6 through 8, and then high school 9 through 12. Okay. And, you know, Perry, we have sent, you know, at the high school level, this is my 20th year there. They've kept me around for 20 years, right? Yeah. So maybe that, you know.
They didn't call me for a reference.
But, you know, we have sent kids to the very best colleges in the country. We've sent kids to full-time ministry, military, and also into the vocational realm. You know, I ran into one of my former students, 27 years old, phenomenal, here in the Valley, a job, and he said, and the cool thing is now students are starting to take me out to lunch. I had 2 students last week. They took me fishing on the Monday we had no school. They're like, Mr. Fennell, and I'm like, okay, this is weird, but I'll take it. But it's neat to see these students doing real life things. Now, the scary part is when you go to the hospital and you're seeing nurses and doctors, and you're like, they were a former student. I don't know if I'm okay with this, but
I remember when.
Yes, I remember when. So, you know, the schools are very, you know, Eric Richard, our head of schools, a very different thinker, very cutting edge. You look at our board of directors and the men and women who sit there, and their intentionality with these schools, their commitment to Christian education and to Christian families in Southern Oregon who want to be there. You know, it doesn't get any better. I'm very excited, very blessed that my 3 sons get to be going to school there. I've seen their transformation. They are special places.
GraceChristian.org is the website, GraceChristian.org, and you can check it out. But May 6th is the open house. There's a picture of the landing page there. Now, folks, the other thing that's been a part of this, which I think these are tools and assets that really fulfill what you're talking about. But God has really blessed this organization with amazing facilities, both campuses, and they are expanding. But really, when you took the building across the street and I walked in there, I said, how in the world are you going to take an antenna company and turn this into a school? And you guys did it.
Yeah.
And you're expanding that.
Yeah, we're expanding that to offer more extended enrichment, to open it up to 3 classes per grade level, starting in kindergarten. You know, and you get Reed Murphy and Travis Snyder in the same building. And it is amazing. And then Conrad Morris, right? So those 3 guys, what they were able to do in there, and what makes that place so special, what makes it hum, is that, you know, you have at the elementary school Tim Tataroo, Donnell Todd, all the phenomenal teachers, and then at the middle school Diane McMahon, then you have Toby Watt. You know, I look at all these people that are there. I'm like, these are a collection of amazing individuals, all top-notch professionals who really have a heart for Jesus, and they want to disciple and mentor kids. And you know, that open house is going to be a lot of fun. You know, Dana, she's the pretty face, you know, on our admissions department. phenomenal. She gives campus tours. They've taken me out of that role now. I guess I was too, crazy for people. But, Dana really does a good job with walking families through the process. We want to make sure it's a right fit for the families, right? We're not here just to, to take any kid.
Well, what's so interesting, the other thing is, let me say again, folks, gracechristian.org. This is preparation for next year. Look, this is kind of like get involved now if you're thinking about it, because you fill up pretty fast.
We fill up fast. Parents, interesting when you think about like the return on investment. I have one of my students, this is her second year out. Her first year of college, we have different opportunities with colleges. Her first year of college, her tuition was $3,500. This year she pays nothing. And you look at the preparation, the classes, the opportunities. It's just, I look at, and then from a business entrepreneurship standpoint, I've had businesses come into my class and say, we'll pay for your college, to my students. Now I have to, next day I'm like, do you realize you just had this type of this is how much this class means to you, right? And even yesterday in class, it was funny. Students are starting and launching their own businesses. So 4 guys, I will not name them on the air, but they're like, Mr. Fennell, we have this opportunity. It was a business expense, because I'm helping with some of the financing of it. And I said, guys, you might want to think about this right here. So they go out, they're making real calls. Mr. Fennell, we just got 50% off. I'm like, yeah, you did.
Yeah.
But what they're being immersed, they're learning, and it's kind of like we're working in the rough draft mindset, right? So that is a cool thing. And once again, Toby Walker, Diane McMahon, folks will get to meet them, get to meet Mr. Richard, hear their passion. And Perry, I always tell my students and my own sons, you always pay the price to be in the presence of extraordinary people, right? The whole concept of networking. And when I think about the business classes alone, who these students are being exposed to. Extraordinary people, right? And then the doors that will open up to them. And why do these extraordinary people come in? Because they align with the school's mission, right? They want to impart to these kids the Judeo-Christian worldview. This is what it looks like in huge, successful businesses. Right? And these kids are like, wait, this really works, Mr. Fennell. Everything you've been telling us, I'm like, I know, who knew, right? So,
well, one of the things that for your personal class, I'm glad to hear that you're teaching entrepreneurship, because it's a lost virtue in our culture. Yeah,
it's been amazing for the students, to walk through processes. They're going to actually be doing their big pitches at an amazing company, NIC here in a couple weeks. In the fall, we teach financial stewardship. So, the students learn investing, budgeting. They're running through simulators. They're getting real world experience. So they understand whatever job God calls you to, right? Because if he's going to call you to it, he's going to give you the resources. But you have to be a good steward, right? So just like if a child doesn't know how to read, you're going to be illiterate. If you don't understand money, how it works, it's a powerful tool. It's a horrible master. You live between the tensions. Those are all things that we get to. And then, of course, we get to open up the Bible and talk to the kids. Hey, Jesus says a lot about money, a lot about life. And that's the part where, I look back at my own experience with my own sons, and I think, who do I want speaking into my kids' lives? Right? Because the voices that speak into their lives, they're going to, immersion, imitation. And, I'm still trying. There is one guest speaker that has been holding out coming into class. I'm working on him. I'm talking to his wife, Peggy Atkinson. But, I hope eventually we could get him coming in and talking to the kids about what he does. And
well, I have 2 specialties. I either good at church splits or revivals, and you have to tell me in advance which one you want.
Well, Perry, you also say something else. That you say there's 2 reasons why people change, right?
Yeah.
Desperation and inspiration.
Right.
And I would say that what we are doing at these schools is we are inspiring kids.
Yes.
That this is who you can become.
Yes.
Because I've seen the desperation side, years later, and I've had students come in, and we're not done mentoring, disciple, even when they graduate, right? You look at how many students now that are coming back teaching, former students who are sending their kids to our school, and guess what? Because it's the community, right? You are part of a greater community, and we're not, I had one of my former students call me, hey, can I talk to you? I really need some, of course.
That's wonderful.
And so that's, it's a blessing to get to do that, and And maybe you'll be at the open house, right? Maybe you and Peggy. No, I'm sorry.
No. Okay, so look, before I run out of time, should they RSVP?
Yes, they should go to the website. They should click on the form, really, because that's going to tell Dana how much food to prepare.
Okay.
She's going to personalize everything for parents. So you see the website right there. You simply go to the admissions tab. You click on the admissions tab. It will take you to an inquiry form. You fill that out, or you could simply call the number on the website, ask for Dana. And she is really amazing, does a great job, and we'll make sure you're taken care of.
Okay, and this is coming up May 6th, so this would be a great investment for you to go and look and see and experience. It's amazing. It's just amazing. And both campuses are amazing. The programs are amazing. And God's got its hand on it, and what you hear from Dave here is they're going to be immersed in something that will literally shape and change their life for the better. You know what the other thing is? You match talent with task. You match talent with calling. And boy, that's a rare virtue these days. You prepare children, young people, young adults, you prepare them for their calling, which is the task that God assigns them for their life.
Yeah,
it's pretty amazing.
It's by the grace of God.
Thanks for coming in. Good to see you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I'll pray about coming to your class one of these days.
Or I could bring them to you. We could do a class right here.
Well, when we're done, that will be. You can see what we're doing here.
Yeah.
When we're done, we'll bring them over.
That would be awesome. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Good to see you. We'll be right back.